more for you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks to John and Simon for helping. Once, Edward got into this bubble machine racket. These small machines, like wicker sparrows, that when gassed with soap, blew bubbles. Edward thought maybe anything with a hole could blow a bubble, but capitalism had made sure Edward had to sell something. He took the bubble machines straight to the town of Wye in Wales, where they made dish soap. The whole town hopelessly, inextricably involved with the dish soap factory at its edge. There were several dish soap stores in the town itself, boutiques of dish soap. Everyone in Wales and England, maybe even Scotland, knew that one went to Wye if one were intent on buying some ultimate strain of dish soap. So it weren't a difficult math problem, as far as Edward was concerned, to reckon that he'd do well with the bubble machines there in Wye. Bad news, though. The people of Wye hated the bubble machines, said they were too fancy, hated Edward's sales technique of spreading bubbles all over the town square, hated Edward himself, for he had a Canadian accent, and the Canadians had done far less better versus the English than the Welsh had done, and you always hate seeing yourself mirrored in a minor key. Edward began walking out of town on day 3. He'd meant to make it 8 days, but he had hippie townswomen there beside his portable bubble machine stand, selling their elderberry juice from their wheeled, flowery elderberry juice carts. And these hippie townswomen, also embittered with capitalism, taking time to turn around and yell at Edward about how no one needed a machine to make bubbles. Well, I know, but still, was all Edward could think to say. But who could answer against the wind of the fury of a hippie? So, there Edward went, wobbling on his sore feet out the east side of Wye, his suitcase leaking bubbles behind him. He never minded the road, as he didn't have a car, and he figured he'd come to a fresh road instead of one that passed through Wye. He didn't want to have any hitchhiking conversations about how he'd done there. Edward tramped through fields, over hills, down dirt paths, climbed fences, skirted herds of cows, etc. His suitcase kept leaking bubbles. He knew one of the machines was probably still going somewhere in there, but he just felt like walking and didn't feel like stopping to open the suitcase and extinguish the road. Besides, the bubbles leaking from the suitcase were splendid. They all caught the sun just so. And the herds of cows Edward skirted seemed to like the bubbles. They all raised their heads and stared and let their drool drip. And then Edward passed through a field of sheep, and the sheep definitely liked the bubbles. They in fact followed Edward, who had only ever experienced sheep as creatures who ran from him. Edward thought how unfortunate it was the sheep couldn't walk or talk or use money, and therefore buy up every last one of Edward's bubble machines. That thought gave Edward the idea of going to the first farmhouse he came across. But when he stood on the porch explaining to the farm wife about how the sheep followed the bubbles, he felt a little crazy. And anyway, the farm wife closed the door on his outstretched hand. Yes, the weathered, wordless, sad-eyed farm wife shut the very door on Edward's poor, gentle, harmless, good-willed, warmly brown, stub-fingered hand. The hand mournfully copied the very finest specimen of the too many remaining bubble machines.
Let's do it again for Guy J. Jackson.